Welcome back, everyone. As mentioned previously, this part has been rewritten entirely, and it took a lot of time and effort to put everything into a perfect, concise little bow. There's a specific timeline of events the Sonic world follows, and I want to stick to it as much as I possibly can for this what if, even if it means stuff like this, where we now have to factor in the storybook games. Thankfully, those are already hard timeline placed, so I hope you enjoy where this part goes. It's going to be a wild one, and if you do, well, I'm not going to say, the usual YT jargon now, but still, it helps a lot, just sharing, especially, you know the drill. You all know the drill. I know the drill. Let's move on. And I want to just, again, thank every single one of you who's been watching since the beginning of this what if. I cannot state that enough. Genuinely, it means the world to me that this series has parts going almost to 1,000 views at the time of recording, and has so much love and support from something I was just doing for fun after the silver game what if, because ideas flowing in my head. Anyways, unnecessarily long preambles out of the way, let's get back to where we left off, shall we? After the events, seeing the timeline reset and everyone watching the Festival of the Sun, not long after, the events of Sonic Rush Adventure would happen, and not much would change from canon. However, it would be confirmed that the thief that Blaze defeated while being sent to the future, which obviously didn't happen this time, was in fact Johnny. Besides that, however, it would mostly be the same story as you know, maybe sped up a teeny bit by Amy being so compassionate and caring and helpful and all that. And with Blaze just getting along better with Amy rather than Sonic, considering, well, Sonic. But nothing major changes in the end. And we move on a little bit to a bit of a break. And Amy is enjoying some of it. She's happy that nothing bad's happening, and Eggman not messing things up is just nice all around, but nobody really knows where he is right now. And she's wanting an adventure. Something to really stir the soul, as she mentions one day to Tails while on call with him. Tails responds quickly in the middle of his research, saying she should probably read a classic story. Those always cheer him up. Amy has always been, even in canon, more literate than Sonic, so the option didn't displease her, but she did want an actual adventure again. Still, she thanked Tails and ended the call, heading out of her apartment to see if she couldn't find a good book to read somewhere. After some wandering around Station Square, she finds an odd book in a junk shop. "Something I found during the rebuilding effort," the old man behind the counter said. It was in perfect condition, which only made it stand out to the girl even more, so she bought it and took it home, spending the rest of that evening reading the book in its entirety. It was a collection of stories, everything from a once prosperous civilization near a place called Missouri, apparently. She was so enthralled by the tales that she ended up not realizing how fast time was passing. And before she knew it, after finishing only 2 of the stories in it, she had fallen asleep on her couch. She woke up a few hours later in the middle of the night, only to realize how careless she had been. She then went to get herself up and noticed a ring on her coffee table, different from the regular ones she normally has. Must still be half asleep, she grumbles to herself in a slight daze, before attempting to grab the ring. And when she does, Sharha is released from it. Instantly, Amy starts freaking out, thinking she still must be dreaming. But the genie assures her that she is not and elaborates on what's going on, just like in canon with the ReZaHydra. Unlike in canon, however, Amy is just baffled and still a bit out of it, thinking that there's no way this could truly be happening, right? But when she puts on the ring, as Shara orders, the strange pain it inflicts upon her confirmed to the hedgehog that she was not sleeping anymore. Shara was angered by this. Then, after rubbing the ring as commanded, Amy made her first wish. Take me to your... Sorry, it seems I really should have slept with a blanket. I could really use a tissue right now. Similar to canon, Sharha annoyingly grants the request, but is less hostile this time thanks to it being an accident. And with her second wish, she's transported into the world of the 1001 Arabian Nights. Properly this time. Shortly after entering, ReZaHydra finally shows himself and taunts the girls, as well as commenting on Amy's tactless dress to rile her up. And it works. The two actually have a brief fight here, though Amy's beaten down pretty hard, even using her hammer. And when ReZaHydra hears what Sharha has to say about the world rings, he fires the curse. Amy, slightly injured from the bout, goes to block it with her hammer, but the curse goes right through her hammer, landing right on her chest. ReZaHydra mocks her for thinking that the weapon could block magic before events get set back onto their canon course. Though this spawns both a strong anger and dread in Amy, stronger than any she's ever known, as she's forced with a literal clicking clock on her life permanently being stuck to her. And ReZaHydra seemed to be a brand of evil she truly had never gone up against. Pure evil. Losing to him in that scuffle only making the anxiety caused from these two factors combined worse. Eventually, following the events of canon and gathering the Yellow World Ring, these fears only compound with Sharha's words about the user sacrificing themselves to open a portal between worlds. At this point, Amy is on the verge of an actual panic attack, and Sharha tries her best to calm her down, but then Amy just stops, calming herself down. If I'm going to do anything, it's going to be saving everyone I can. Wouldn't be the first time my life's been at risk. Just never had a timer before. She chuckles at the notion before turning to Sharha, smiling. I promise you, with all the compassion I can muster, this world will be saved. Similar to canon, as reality sets in, the two make a promise to keep. From here, events go to canon for the most part, from stuff like the summoning of the Ifrit Golem to defeating several bosses along the way and collecting most of the world rings. Though Amy would be less cocky, more serious, and relying much more on Shara's wishes for stuff like traversing the skies and seas. However, in spite of all of that, her speed, especially when using her hammer, would not be in question. She would be only slightly slower than Sonic in canon in every aspect, and making new routes by breaking her own way through with the hammer to speed things up even compared to canon. Though she always thinks back to a razor shooting right through her hammer when she does this. The fact it can't block his magics in its current state scares her greatly, and she wonders what could even be done about it, if it truly would require her to use all of the world rings to destroy him. But as events march on, from Solomon to finally entering the Night Palace, time moves onwards as well. The legendary Pink Hedgehog, as she's been dubbed here, finally makes it to a ReZaHydra again in his palace, and sooner than Sonic did originally, as right before they could start their duel, Amy drops to her knees, flashing. The Djinn mocks her, telling her that you clearly don't have the time for fighting me right now with that little flame left, and laughing maniacally while Shara worries for her floating ahead. But Amy stands up. Don't worry, Shara. I made a promise to save everyone in this world, just like I always do mine. This time limit won't stop me, and neither will you, Razorhair. The nickname thoroughly enraged ReZaHydra, and the fight from canon in the palace commences. Taking a small step back to the original version of events, Sonic had taken care of the Djinn quickly. But by comparison, Amy here struggled much more. Her hammer affected him physically, but his magic kept her in check as she was always forced to dodge it, unable to block the blows. In the end, however, she sends him back to the mysterious door. The door that, just like Sonic did in canon, Amy quickly realizes represents the book itself. And they slot in the world rings to truly finish this. However, Shara was subservient to a razor in the end, and just like in canon, Amy wishes for her to truly do what she wants and thinks is right, only for it to be too late. ReZaHydra begins to absorb the rings and goes to kill Amy with a blow of magic. Shara quickly goes in and jumps in front of the hedgehog to sacrifice herself. Amy, realizing this, tries to block it with her hammer, but just like before with the curse, just like in canon, ReZaHydra had dealt a mortal blow that killed Shara. Amy begins to tear up, several emotions swelling inside of her, as Alf Layla Wa Layla was created from a razor absorbing the rings. However, the rings reacted differently this time compared to canon. Every single world ring that he had absorbed, of course, had resonated and hurt him both. But they also simultaneously resonated with the emotion swelling in Amy and fused with her as well, resonating with her. Something beyond Darkspine Sonic was formed in this moment, with the sole goal of defeating Eraser, defeating Alf Layla Wa Layla, and reviving Shara. This creature was Sherazade Amy, using the powers that the rings had granted her, and the ones remaining from Shara's own. The monster is defeated much faster, realizing that she too has combined with the rings. What are to be able to defeat all the stories, he mutters as reality begins to bend back to normal. And Amy merely replies, "If you were supposed to be the story, then I'm the narrator changing the script," as she morphs back into her original self. In the end, Shara is resurrected, Razor Jin is sealed permanently, the Arabian Nights story is restored, and Amy wishes for Shara to leave the story with her, as it rewrites from Aladdin to Abi and the Arabian Nights. And with that, Sonic and the Secret Rings comes to a close. Though I do want to address Shara, as her being in the real world is quite a big change. Specifically, however, Amy uses one final wish on her to truly set her free, to truly be her own person in this world, in the world Amy knows. Not too similar to what Aladdin did at the end of the Disney adaptation. She's overjoyed and cries genuine tears, and likewise now has the ability to grant minor wishes for anyone and everyone she wants, including herself. Though her powers are much more lacking in the real world. And it had only been a few hours of real world time as well, meaning Amy was so exhausted that not too long after doing all of this, she passed right back out. Shara carried her to her bed and tucked her in before leaving a thank you note and heading off. When Amy awoke, she couldn't help but tear up herself reading it. Thankful that a brand new box of tissues was next to it as well. A month or two goes by from here with not too much exciting happening until Tails gets a reading during his studies in Spagonia that the Egg Fleet is currently in the planet's orbit planning something. He quickly relays this to Amy, who wastes no time at all in getting all of the Chaos Emeralds and heading after the Mad Doctor. It had been too long for her waiting for him to strike, and she wanted to make the first strike anyways. And thus, the events of Amy Unleashed are kicked into motion, and go rather similarly. The opening cinematic happens exactly as normal, and Amy gets stuck as a werehog, which I actually would have a screenshot for if Phase 2 of the Amy Unleashed mod was finished yet. Which it isn't, but still stuck as a werehog, and she freaks out over how hideous she looks. Until she comes to the aid of a cute amnesiac creature she really hopes she wasn't the cause of. Of course, he would still be named Chip, as Amy thought it sounded cute and it fit his personality. I need something to call you by after all, and that ice cream had the right idea. You're so energetic and quick to emotions, yet also just so chipper. So why not Chip? The name obviously sticks, as the two go round continent hopping, beat for beat with the original story, until when Werehog Sonic would have been unrecognized by Amy, as now the tables have turned. Sonic sees this beast ravaging around, but also genuinely helping people with this little companion while fighting off some of Dark Gaia's minions. Not knowing what's fully going on, but getting word from Tails that Amy was on the case. He approached the beast in a flash, in the same place Amy rushed into the werehog and cannon. Hey, you seem pretty strong. Also familiar. Oh well, name's Sonic. Amy had her voice caught in her throat as she stammered, not wanting any of her friends to see her like this. though the blue blur went on. It seems like you know more about what's going on than I do, and my siblings seem to be handling stuff on their own again. So I thought I might as well ask you if there's anything I can do to help. Sonic was, at the end of the day, still the Sonic we knew, but he had been shown up by Amy so much. He wanted to genuinely save the world on his own, not that he knew that he was speaking to Amy right now. After a moment of hesitation, she finally spoke through the werehog's voice.
Sonic, it's me. Am I really that unrecognizable in this form?
She began to tear up slightly as Sonic realized what was going on.
Whoa, Amy! Talk about a bad hair day. What happened? And why haven't you told me everything sooner?
They sit down in a nearby alley in the night to talk about everything. In the end, Sonic goes to make sure the shards that had already set back in place stay that way, and also tries to find a way to Eggman's base of operations on the planet for her. His speed was much faster than hers at night now, after all, so he had the advantage there. After this, events would mostly be set back on track to canon, though Sonic would discover Eggman Land in advance, right around the time Chip regains his memories as Light Gaia, making the notion a tad bit pointless for him. But he instead comes to Amy during the day right before everything finishes off. Amy, before you go back to your apartment or go on another adventure or anything after all this, Little Planet should be appearing again in 2 weeks. You still owe me a race. Deal? You and your insatiable love of running. Though I guess I could promise that, so long as nothing else happens. In the end, Sonic Unleashed ends on a similar enough note. Dark Gaia would be sealed, and Chip would leave behind a bracelet for Amy that she would always keep on her to remember him by. And so, 2 weeks pass, and both dart off towards Nether Lake, towards Little Planet. Amy had actually started a bit beforehand to get a chili dog for her older brother, but right as she was getting close to Nether Lake, she all of a sudden felt the ground beneath her just disappear. Panicking, she quickly tries to catch herself, but in the end, she ends up plummeting on her quills, and the chili dog falling right onto her face. If only I liked these as much as he did, she mumbles to herself in defeat, before getting up and cleaning her face. And seeing a girl who notably looks stunned at her, surrounded by monsters and a menacing knight clad in black. Oh, another one of these things? Now, of all times? Well, let's get this done quick. She says that last part with a devilish smirk before pulling her hammer out and in almost the blink of an eye defeating all of the monsters as a gust of wind and a literal sonic boom from the monsters hitting the hammer at such speeds ring out across the place. She goes to jump strike at this Black Knight before the woman drags her back and teleports them away. And thus we enter Amy and the Black Knight. Once the young woman and Amy reappear, instantly she begins to question Amy, though she doesn't use her name. Lady Nimue, how are you here? I meant to summon the Chosen King, not... Amy interrupts her, stammers quickly.
Lady Nimue? I'm sorry, but it seems you have the wrong person. I'm Amy. Amy Rose. Pleasure to meet you. She offers her hand to shake, but the woman seems perplexed still and just stands there. After a long, awkward silence and Amy asking if she was okay, she finally spoke up again. You remind me of someone from this world is all. She dejectedly looks down before continuing. I was supposed to summon the chosen king, but it seems I have failed. I'm truly sorry for bringing you into this. Amy brushes the girl's worries off, saying how she's done stuff like this all the time, before finally she spoke up again. And that hammer. It is powerful, but it will have no effect on the Black Knight. Finally, they stumble into a clearing of sorts. A sword and a stone atop a pile of boulders. Hey, I think I've read this story before. So that's the chosen king you were referring to. The woman let out a shocked gasp before Amy continued, leaping onto the rocks and going straight for the sword. If there's no Arthur to pull out the sword of the stone, who says it can't be me? Amy then proceeds to effortlessly pull the sword out, only for it to start shaking violently. A male voice rings out from it. What is this power? What's happening? His cries are cut short for the moment by the sword transforming into a hammer. Amy nearly doubled over at the increase in weight before catching herself. I could get used to this. Caliburn, now in hammer form, finally speaks again. It seems I have been freed and turned into a hammer. Lovely. There goes any hope of a true knight wielding me. And for it to be such a brash and reckless girl, besides, no armor or chainmail, have you no dignity? Amy freaked out and stumbled back as Caliburn floated before her now that she dropped him. Finally, after all these changes, the story begins to get back on track to the canon of events. The brief fight against King Arthur, Merlina properly introducing herself, and what's going on with King Arthur besides, and having a Dragon of the Mist test Amy's capability. Surprising both Caliburn and Merlina, Amy's strength is enough to shatter the crystal on the dragon's head in a single hit, sending it fleeing in fear. Such power! Maybe you truly do stand a chance against King Arthur. This gets Amy's attention as she elaborates some while walking towards a lake. As they do, Merlina stops for a moment while Amy is talking to her, picking up a flower and having her usual speech about the tragedy of its withering and dying. Amy, however, had some different words to Sonic this time. Or should I say that she had words to say at all? Hey, it's okay. If we only focus on the ending, we miss the rest of the story. Amy, as already stated, had pieced together that this was the story of the Sword and the Stone, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. But in spite of that, she didn't fully understand Merlina yet. Though this interaction showed her a great sadness just beneath the surface. She hoped her words cheered her up. She makes for town alone before getting a full set of armor from the blacksmith this time. I thought it looked more fitting for someone as brave as you. I hope that you forgive the wait.
the aspects of Tails still remained, and Amy thanked him, trying it on and finding it constraining but form-fitting. Enough to where it wouldn't hinder her movements, at least. Events played similarly to canon from here afterwards, with the brief fight against Lancelot, Amy recognizing Shadow in him. Nothing too shocking for her after the trip into the Arabian Nights. But then they got to the lake and encountered herself. Or at least someone who looked exactly like her, but much more regal. Lady Nimue, I apologize for my new form. It seems my wielder's power has changed me in some way. Caliburn mutters. The Lady of the Lake herself was herself. Amy clearly needed to have some more time to wrap her head around this revelation, and by the looks of it, Nimue was just as confused seeing her own appearance in such a way. Caliburn and Nimue takes the lead in the explanation from here, and things go about the same as in canon motive-wise. But Amy does add a remark to Nimue about her second task. It seems we aren't so different after all, both striving for love and compassion. Don't worry about anything. Everything will be done. And from there, things do go the same as if Sonic took the lead, but now with Amy, armored and ready to take on the challenges ahead. And following similar enough to canon, where we can actually skim ahead, even fulfilling Nimue's true mission, saving the people of the Dragon's Den, and defeating Gawain, while also getting his legendary sword. And making sure he realizes there's more to being a knight than just serving a king. However, when Nimue tells Excalibur's weakness to them, she also admits that with how Caliburn is now, she's unsure if everything will work. Amy, however, remains confident. Not cocky, but true bravado shines through as she promises to defeat him. Events play similarly enough to canon, and as she encounters Percival at the end of the mines, asking for Amy's name and who she serves, her response is simple. My name is Amy Rose, and I only serve the heart and compassion of the world. The two begin the duel that ends quickly, and when Percival is defeated, tumbling towards the lava, Amy acts even faster than Sonic did in canon. Caliburn, now, she screams as she plunges the hammer into the cliffside, Caliburn using his own levitation powers to force himself further in along with Amy's strength to make sure he sticks into the cliffside. In the end, Percival is saved, and Amy is dubbed Sir Amy, the Knight of Compassion. And thus with this, all three sacred swords in Caliburn, Merlina appears to praise Amy and tell her about Arthur being on faraway Avalon, just like in canon. Amy then proceeds to defeat Arthur and sees him dissipate, just like all the other monsters, and heads back to Merlina to ask her about this in the castle with the scabbard, only to be met with the same harsh truth as in canon. Merlina had played them all. The knights regroup and Nimue appears as they fulfill the same plan as in canon, but Amy is stopped by Nimue before leaving. Me from another world, stay safe, and find your true love and happiness after all of this is over. Amy smiles wide before saying that she will never forget those words, and darting off to place Caliburn in the podium and heading off to the castle. eventually coming face to face with Merlina, now the Dark Queen herself. As soon as Merlina tries to speak to the hedgehog, Amy tries to get through to her instead.
Merlina, what are you even thinking? We were supposed to put an end to all of this and save the kingdom, not destroy everything with these demons from the underworld.
Sadly, though, Merlina reveals what she does in canon, and Amy's response is even more damning to Merlina than Sonic's was in canon.
Nothing lasts forever. That's why we strive for love and compassion. Are you blinded that much by grief caused by your grandpa that you destroy the very world you wish to save?
This struck a nerve with the Dark Queen, her sending out a shockwave that Amy withered in anger, but in the end, things play out similarly. Amy unable to pierce the magic barrier and on the verge of death. Caliburn, even in hammer form, sacrifices himself. Before even more of a beating is unleashed upon Amy, her armor cracking and shattering as visible wounds and blood appear. However, just as in canon, the light of Amy's will and the sacred swords shine through, allowing for the paladin Excalibur, Amy, to manifest. As her wounds are healed and the fight truly begins, the Demon King Arthur that had once badly injured and bled Amy was now having its own blows deflected and struck back at it with the sheer might of Excalibur, even in its now hammer form. Her armor, now repaired, shone brightly against the blue flame summoned forth by it, and Merlina used all of her magical prowess as the Dark Queen to instead swap to the defensive with the beast. However, Amy pierced through its defense, striking now with an offense even stronger, though equal to speed, to Excalibur Sonic's own. The monster stood no chance, being destroyed as the land and sky revert to normal finally. And in the end, funnily, after defeating her, Amy says the exact same thing to Merlina that Sonic did before the revelation that Amy is now the true King Arthur. Though, of course, Amy must now return to her world as well. Merlina is about to oblige the request, but Nimue steps up first, shocking everyone.
This world needs a ruler, and in the absence of the me from another world, who better than myself to take over?
This news shocked everyone, but it made Amy smile.
You'll also be needing all of this then.
She took off her armor, returning back to her red dress, and handed it and the hammer Excalibur over to Nimue, who took over as Amy finally left with one final spell from Merlina, turning the book into Amy and the Black Knight, and leaving her just a small distance away from Neverlake.
Hey, I'm not too far from Neverlake. I hope I didn't miss...
As she darted over, she quickly saw a fuming blue blur looking dead on at her on a rock over the lake. Little planet nowhere to be found. She realized quickly that more time had passed than she thought.
Sonic, I truly am sorry. I was transported to another world. I fought knights, slayed the king, stopped an evil sorceress, and even had an alternate me become the real ruler.
Sonic's frown didn't let up. Amy sheepishly looked down before saying that she even had got him a chili dog that sadly was lost when this happened. That finally got a reaction out of him. Oh, so now we're bringing chili dogs into the mix. If you really want to make up for it, then how about we settle this another way? Sonic instantly stands up, reminiscent of when he fights alongside her. Amy sighed heavily. You boys and your love for fighting. She summoned her hammer and was shocked at how light it felt. She'd need to fix that some other time. She seems to have gotten too used to Caliburn as well, as the friendly rival-like fight ended in a draw, both collapsing in the grass laughing. Next time, I promise I'll get you that race. So long as another world doesn't magically transport me into it again. They both laugh as Sonic still can barely believe the tale, if he even does, ending off Amy and the Black Knight. And with that, we've officially done the storybook games and Unleashed. And Rush Adventure, I guess you could say, but we skipped over that. Amy didn't change too much here, though ripples were certainly felt throughout. I mean, look at Sharha, for instance. After all of this, she returns to Station Square to rest up. She needed some proper sleep after all she's been through. She also got word of Twinkle Park opening up a new expansion soon, so she was very excited for that. She wondered if she could even drag Tails along from his studies to join her in this endeavor once it does open up. But that will be for next time when we reach for the stars. Though the true focus of that video won't be on that, but will instead be on a fist-bumping good time through the generations. Oh, what a part! Thank you all so very much for watching if you made it this far. I say this every time, but I genuinely do mean it more than I could ever state. That there's people genuinely watching any of these videos and actually enjoying them. Next up is Colors, obviously, though as I also said, it won't be the main focus, and I will be changing Generations and Forces a lot. Some of you may already realize why, and what I'm getting at, thanks to what I previously said, but don't worry. I was going to push for this to be 8 parts, but after this rewrite and how long this part's been, it's definitely going to be 9 now. The script for part 8 was always a shorter one, more in line with what was written for parts 1 and 2, but there was a lot I cut out of this for next time, so I hope you all really enjoy what's to come. With that, if you enjoyed, please do the usual YT stuff for me. I know, I said at the beginning, hate doing it, yada yada, but it Joe does help a lot. Anyways, hope you all have a wonderful day, night, week, month, rest of the year. I hope to see you all again sometime soon.